call the meeting to order at 5:34, as we'll be here sooner or later. Everyone have a chance to review the minutes of May 16th?
Yes.
Motions?
Motion to accept the meetings as printed.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We have any bills? Sign that pathetic looking. Hold that folder aside, and we'll discuss it later on in the meeting. Correspondence. Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners. I should have Paul read this, shouldn't I?
Sounds good to me.
Oh, is this the,
You can't read this, Aaron.
Well, then you read it.
yeah, you read it.
Yeah, give me the highlights. Okay. May 7, 2012, Board of Selectmen, Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions is very pleased to inform you that Paul Dooley, associated with the Raynham Conservation Commission, successfully completed MACC's Fundamentals for Conservation Commissioners training course and received a certificate of achievement. Attaboy, Paul. The goal
That
of
was
the
your raise.
the goal of the 8-unit fundamentals course is to provide conservation commissioners and others with the basic knowledge and practical tools essential to carry out the many responsibilities administering the Wetlands Protection Act and open space planning. Such training promotes sound, consistent decision-making and builds respect for the Commission's decisions. We offer our congratulations to Paul for undertaking this training, as well as to you and the town of Raynham for recognizing the value of training in commission work and supporting the important training for your commission. We enclose a press release announcing Paul's achievement for forwarding to your local newspaper. Broad appreciation and training opportunities is essential in full benefits that are accrued in the entire commission and of the community. We suggest that when making future appointments, you encourage new commissioners to participate, and when considering commission budget, you provide funding for this modest training fees. MACC offers training programs year-round at locations across the state. Please feel free to pass along this enclosed training program brochure, and thank you for your important involvement and support. Linda Oro, Executive Director, Michelle Girard, Associate Director and Education Coordinator. Congratulations, Paul.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Paul.
Thank you.
So we have a press release there that we need to have
We
sent
should.
out.
Yep.
How about a motion that we send it to the Taunton Daily Gazette and the Today Show?
I motion we get Katie Couric down here.
So you take care of sending that to the Gazette?
That's
Probably the Call, too.
It's a big achievement. There's a lot of hours in doing this.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I did it. Congratulations, and guess what that means?
Bill's right behind you.
I've got 2 more to go.
We have correspondence from Stephen Herzog, CSX Transportation. They're providing us with the information on this year's vegetation management. It's just a notice based on the 2009. What did they get? The determination of applicability. Okay, we have one from Marie Francois Hart, and it was sent out to us as emails.
I think I'll forward it
Azu.
to everybody.
I think you probably got this too. This is someone who wants to They have a development of a comprehensive state monitoring and assessment program for the wetlands in Massachusetts. And they have 2 areas in Raynham where they'd like to check things out.
UMass Amherst? Okay, yep. I saw that.
And the properties are conservation properties?
That's what,
Yeah, if it's conservation properties,
they
yeah,
have to
but,
ask permission.
right, but if it's private property, you can't give them authorization
got
to
it
go on
back
private
there.
property.
I thought it was down as town-owned property, right?
Nothing on the bill.
Study sites. Pine Swamp off of King Philip Street, and Titicut Swamp off Just Marie.
Are
We
they
don't-
town-owned?
That's town.
They are town, yeah,
At least the Titicut Swamp one off the Jesse Marie is.
okay.
Okay.
Don't know about the King Philip.
Why not grant them okay based on, make sure.
Just making sure that it's town property?
Property that they're going to conduct the project on it.
Okay.
If not, then they'll have to go to the private owners, I guess.
Okay.
I believe it is. I think they did their homework.
So motion to,
Accept that with, motion to
Send
accept
them a letter.
it based on what I just said about making sure it's town property.
Seconded.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Fine.
Okay. Town Rainham Fire Department, Rainham Conservation Commission. Property owner at 407 Route 44, Dean's Plaza, has offered to make an emergency ramp for emergency personnel to access the Taunton River located behind this property. This will entail clearing of some trees, cleaning river debris on the embankment, and putting up some trap rock. On May 31st, 2012, we had a rescue on the Taunton River at high tide, which made our rescue easier and less dangerous for all involved. This would have made our rescue easier and less dangerous for all involved. If it had been at low tide, it would have been much more difficult and to maneuver in the river and would have taken much more time to reach the missing man in the river. James T. Janus, Fire Chief. I spoke to Azu about this morning, and we were gonna try to meet with the fire chief tomorrow to just see what was out there and what he wanted to do. The fire chief is not available in the morning, so he asked for Friday. I don't know what your schedule is, but they had, the nearest access to get into the river is down the Ware
No, the where?
with a boat.
Wow.
But if you can get in by a canoe at Dean Plaza, because
Right.
we've done that before.
Well, now the kayak guy is there.
Right,
Right.
but they want
But they
it
had
large
somebody-
enough to launch a boat from, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
because
rescue.
they had someone go in the river that was about
Yes.
325 pounds,
Oh,
drunk,
I didn't read that.
floated from McDonald's down to the
Yeah,
back
he-
of,
urinating in the river and fell in.
yeah,
Well, that's right, he fell down the bank.
and he was
Yeah.
hanging from a tree branch. So if they'd had to go down the Ware and come back,
It'd have been too late.
they say it probably would have been too late. So, you know, I think we'll look at it and see
Sure.
if there's any way of securing it so it's not a nuisance, but, yeah. All right.
All right,
I can't go Friday.
I went out of town again.
What, do you just come back to town for our meetings?
Yeah, sleep in
Once in
Rainham
a
and they
while.
off.
You're lucky, you could have phoned it in.
Update now or later?
We'll just update that later.
I'm
Discuss any other files? Okay, we have Kevin Moriara, who would like to become a conservation commissioner,
Come
at
on
least
down.
now.
Come on down.
I have a list of questions that Gail gave me to ask him. What you do with them? I gave them back to you.
No, you didn't.
Whatever she says is right. See? Why?
That's the only question. I want to get more involved with the town. Many of you know I had a campaign for selectmen in the last election. Unsuccessful, but I still want to contribute to the town. I want to do something. I want to get out there more. Maybe somewhere down the line, I'll do something else. But for the time being, I want to get more involved. I don't want to be one of those, I didn't make selectmen, I just don't want to play, I want to go home. I'm here, obviously I committed to becoming a selectman's race, so I'm committed to the town, so that's why.
Have you ever had any experience dealing with the nice people who sit at this table?
No. Any specific experience with anybody?
No, I mean, as far as dealing with conservation issues, any of the Wetlands Protection Act, any of that.
I have not. The closest I have with conservation dealing is the Hockamont Swamp in my backyard on Hall Street.
Okay. Have you seen Bigfoot? Well, that wasn't.
I have trap cameras, but I haven't tried anything yet.
Are you available to do site visits at all, like during the day?
I am. I'm actually a retired correctional officer. So.
That's 3 years. My boss would tell you that I act like I'm retired. Can you regularly attend meetings, or due to your retirement, are you on vacation down the Cape all the time?
Once or twice a year, I will not be able to attend meetings. Pretty much right around this time of year, because I'm in the military, the Army Reserve still, and I have to do my obligation for 2 weeks. And in July, I have to do a week in Kentucky at Fort Knox for a security officer course. That may or may not overlap. I don't know what the July meeting is or how often they meet in July. But at least once a year for my 2-week obligation, unless this a 3-week span, I always do my 2 weeks consecutive back to back.
Okay.
We don't take vacations.
So you're retired, so you don't work for an engineer or a construction company, you don't have conflict of interest issues like
No.
one of us
The only
does?
job I have presently is reservist in the Army Reserve.
Okay.
And we do transportation.
Do you have any questions of us?
No, I'm willing to learn. Like I said, the most experience I have with conservation is the Hockamont Swamp in my backyard, and I know when you want to do something within 100 feet of the buffer zone, you got to pull a permit. That I know because I had to do an add-on on my house on Tenby Road, and I had a dry creek behind my bed, and I had to go through the motions like everybody else.
Okay.
And that I'm willing to learn and willing to.
And we allowed it?
Hay bales, I had to get hay bales, but they went in. I'm willing to learn and absorb whatever the board can teach me.
Anybody have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but Kevin, I would just tell you that there's plenty of opportunity to get yourself educated, because of the course that I had just completed, but there are other things beyond that we get a lot of communication with it, and they are, some of them are as close as Middleborough. I did some of it in as far away as up in the western part of the state, outside of Springfield, but I mean, they're all over the place, so there's plenty of opportunity to kind of get yourself up to speed.
And that's actually good.
Just
Usually
takes personal time.
Training I have with the Army is usually California or Texas or something, so staying in state is great.
Right, good. Okay.
So you'd be willing to look into some of those training classes to become up to speed, because the Wetlands Protection Act itself is pretty involved.
If that's entailed with the position, then I want to be fully engulfed in the position from nuts to bolts.
You certainly could use the help, that's for sure.
Especially on Wall Street. Okay. Do you have any motions? Send a letter to the selectmen?
I will make a motion that we pass on the name of Kevin Merard to be elected, or to be, what do they have to vote on?
They
His
appoint him.
confirmation or appointment as a commissioner to the, to be a member of the Conservation Commission, Raynham Conservation Commission.
Seconded?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did they have a meeting last night, or next week?
Yes.
So our next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight.
And that will be the first one that I miss.
Okay.
My 2 weeks
Okay.
start next Thursday, and I come back on the 30th.
All right, and then
So July 11th would be the next.
July 11th?
Okay.
Okay. So I'm sure you'll be appointed.
You'll have your
You have to go to
official
the
ballot then.
clerk and get sworn in and welcome aboard.
Absolutely. Yes, very definitely.
Gail will get your paper name tag made up. All right.
Thank you. When we
yeah.
hear anything, we'll pass it along.
If you,
Do you have a number?
508-889-3697.
probably get an email address too. And
Yep, we'll do all of that after
Yeah.
I'll get your email address and all of that, all your information. All right?
okay. Move into informal. Your certificate of compliance. Roger Stolte, Highway Department, DEP file number 2690834, Doreen Fisher, property owner.
It's for signatures, but I have a question on this. It came back as that's the issuance date, and they have it as 5/27/09. Is that the correct date, or when they requested it, they requested that date?
You want to table that?
Yeah, we'll do
Okay.
that. and then-
Okay.
and then confirm.
Certificate of compliance for Barrows.
Correct, there's two of them, 437 and 646.
Yep.
Just need signatures.
Jag Realty Trust, Lounsbury.
Yep, two of them also.
Order of conditions for Gatsby Drive. Now, does this have the,
That's the septic repair one.
Okay.
Please, yeah.
does this have to be recorded, though?
Yes. I will send out all the information for the report.
Okay. I'm gonna move on to the formal and then come back to the, we have some other informal stuff to go over, but. Do we have to read for this, because it's continued?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
We're into the formal, you said?
Yeah, but there's nothing to read, but
It's a continued.
It's a
the
continued
notice of intent.
notice of
South
intent
Street.
for South Street. Now, Paul, I will be present for this,
Okay,
but I will not take part in this,
okay.
just to,
Yeah, well, the last time, was David, when we opened the hearing was here.
yep,
So you had, but Paul wasn't,
right,
right? So, you could still chair the meeting. You just don't ask questions, you don't vote on it, but you can still chair the meeting, and because then you have to entertain
okay,
yeah, you just don't vote on it or ask questions. You just,
Okay.
basically, you do your parliamentary duty.
okay. State your name for the record.
My name is Lawrence Silva from Silver Engineering Associates. And we met on May 15th, at which time we discussed the two projects. Basically, there's two separate notices of intents, but we kind of combined the discussion.
Excuse me, Larry, one quick second, point of information. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to straighten it out for the record, for clarification. On our agenda, it does say, the property is identified as Assessors Map 17 lot 146A and 145A, South Street East. the applicant proposes to construct a single family. You want to make a clarification that it's a typographical error, because you said it's a single family on each lot.
On each lot.
The way it's written here,
Oh,
it
yeah.
seems to suggest that it's one on both lots.
Okay.
All right? Sorry about that.
That's all right. I'll cut the board back in half.
So one dwelling on each lot.
It is one dwelling on each lot.
Right. So there were separate applications, the hearings were opened, and the discussion basically was done together. But one of the things that was awkward last time was that I'd had separate display boards for each one. But what I've done tonight, so it might be easier for you to see, is I've actually combined them on one board, and also gave you a handout which basically shows the two of them together to make it a little bit easier to visualize. There were basically three items that were left from the last discussion. There was an issue that had come up about the checks, as far as the adjustment to those checks. Was basically, I think, the town of Raynham and Commonwealth were reversed in terms of the amounts, but there was also an addition to that, which was discussed that an ANRAD fee needed to be added to the total. So the forms were actually adjusted and the checks were adjusted. An additional fee was presented for the ANRAD. So that clerical part of it, I believe, is all resolved, and I submitted all that this evening, and some of the information was brought in prior. There were a couple of items on the plan itself. There was, I think the only real item that was still left there for any real discussion was that Azu had brought up that we're using the compensatory storage area as the same as the replication storage, the replication area. So what we have done is we've basically separated those so that they're not 2 for 1. We basically have them both illustrated on the plan. And that also we've so where we have these two represent the fill areas. The replication areas, because they're on separate lots, they actually match in together here at the property line between the two. And then this area that's more in the pink dotted area in here is the flood zone compensatory storage. So because part of this area that's filled is within the floodplain, there has to be an equal amount of volume below the floodplain elevation in order to compensate for that area that was filled. And the other issue that was asked for was that we provide the calculations for that fill and replication, that fill and compensatory storage. And those are shown down below, and they're done by elevation, because as it was discussed, that you have to show that you have the volume at each elevation that you do the filling. So you can't have it all at one elevation versus the other. So you gotta have ample cumulative storage that is equal to, and in this case here, greater than what was actually proposed to be filled in. And I think that those really represent the crux of what was actually discussed before. And this placement of the compensatory storage was based on the discussions that we had last time, which was to expand it down in here to make connection between these areas. So I think that this gives you a better picture of the overall as to how it would look when it was finished. And with that, I'd answer whatever questions that you might have.
Okay. I was out there today. I did walk the site. There is currently a culvert there that's running in the back of the property that's about 2 or 3 feet deep and about maybe 4 or 5 feet wide. Where is that in relation to this?
The culvert to which you're speaking is shown here on the plan running through the site.
Okay.
There's basically, you see its outlet is right here at the beginning of this area that we're talking about, a fill.
Mhm.
The pipe would be extended from there down to the end of the filled area. And an easement would be created, a 20-foot wide easement would be created on both properties in order to ensure that it's documented that the pipe is there and that it's for the benefit of both properties, including the property to the north, because that's where the water comes from. So,
There was water in that culvert.
yeah, and it does flow through there.
There's a lot of sediment in that water.
Right, and so it's not just a fill, it's a fill, but actually putting the pipe, extending the pipe down.
Now, where does that pipe, because it ends up with almost like a stream downstream, where does that tie into?
Well, it eventually finds its way down to the river, down to the Tyne River.
Okay. There were also some hay bales across that culvert that looked as though they'd been breached. Do we want to deal with that as well?
Well, this will all be enclosed with hay bales when this work is done.
Okay.
If you're talking about immediate to this area here, that was because some of that work had been done by mosquito control.
Okay.
That's why they had put that in when they were doing that work.
Yeah, there's quite a steep bank there, and it looks as though some erosion barriers are there, but it's
Yeah, well, that'll all be gone once that, we won't have that steepness there anymore, because that'll be the fill area. It'll actually work better this way.
Okay. All right, so that'll be taken care of when we do that.
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I saw. Has anybody else been out there?
Yeah, I did. The only comment I have is that existing pipe that's not gonna be piped down here. You probably need a manhole there, Larry, at wetlands, the current existing wetlands number 6WH and 7WH, only because you have that bend right there.
Well, yeah, we talked about that, but because we were using basically ADS, a corrugated plastic pipe, that it has the ability to sort of, that's kind of a mild change in direction. And we were proposing not to do it with a structure. It's not a very long reach from where the outlet is. It's a, what's the total length of it? 86 feet. 86 feet from the flared end. It is pretty mild. I mean, it's not like it's an abrupt change in direction.
What is the entrance point on the north side, on the northerly property line
It's
of 145A?
It comes from, there's a, as you go further into this property, there's an entrance point that's maybe about 10 or 15 feet to the north here. There is a break in that area. There's another pipe that comes across and ties into it there.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I think there's still quite a bend there. I know what you're saying, but, you know, with corrugated pipe like that, you might get things dislodging, but does the town dump drainage into this?
Not that we're aware. It may have been at one time used to a greater degree before there were changes made at the South Street East. I think at one time, years ago, I think it carried a lot more flow.
Yeah. Well, they addressed the stuff that we asked for, like the volume calculations, so I think unless somebody else in the commission have any questions, or somebody in the audience have any question, I think
So you're happy with what you just discussed with that?
yeah, I still think we can get one of those, even if it's not a real manhole, maybe like a clean out on that section there.
If the commission wants to put that in as part of their conditions,
Yeah.
we could do that. But basically bringing a clean out
Yeah.
up in that.
Yeah, I don't have to build a sophisticated manhole.
Can you step up to the mic, state your name for the record?
Brian Louder, South Street East. In regards to that culvert, there've been several changes over the years to the property to the north, as well as behind my property. That culvert used to go all the way through, all the way through, and there have been changes. In fact, we're next to 145A. I don't know how long that house has been there, for 10 years. All of a sudden, they decided they're gonna plant in the garden after 10 years, after 10 years of empty house. I think that culvert would be better served, I mean, if you can put a pipe somewhere, put it where the culvert is. Make it run all along that property line. And in fact, back to where it was. There had been changes, in fact, the river goes underground, or whatever the drainage is, I know I'm not using the right terms, but that's always been wet back there. My biggest concern is, even with this little pipe that's gonna have a no start and just an end in the river, is not gonna carry all the water that culvert did. My other concern is, on the replication area, you're gonna be higher than where you are on that culvert. It seems like where they're replicating, or I know you have, 5 or 6 acres out there, it's still wet. You're trading wetland for wetland. It's not like you're making new wetlands, you're just eliminating wetlands and saying the replication area is within an already wooded swamp, if you look at the map. I mean, any concerns on that? If you can talk about that culvert, I mean, did you see it today? Was it wet today, or? The water's coming, from down the street, and previous owners of the property, not necessarily G&B, there've been several changes, that they've broken that pipe several times going through. I think that was a drainage system that went all the way up the street, the orange pipes that went through everyone's backyard. And if anything, I'd ask that you make sure that it goes all the way. It doesn't just start in the middle of someone else's yard. That it has a manhole cover, it has a point of entry that's gonna drain.
If I can address that, I mean, we're not changing the point of entry. The point of entry is still there. The pipe that's being placed in the area that we're calling to fill is of adequate capacity to handle that flow that comes through. There's not going to be any change in the ability of the water to come from the north to go through. The point of entry that you're talking about is on the property to the north. And that's still going to have that same access ability to go in. The pipe's still going to function the same way that it does in terms of conveying water through. There's no change to that. As far as replication, the replication areas are areas that are outside of what was delineated as wetland, but they're being replicated in a way that they will assimilate the same features of a wetland, which is actually going to provide the same storage, actually better storage than the actual wetland is now. It's kind of disjointed now. When this is replicated, it'll actually be more, it'll be more connected as far as how the storage occurs in there. So I mean, we looked at this and we believe that this is the correct solution for it, and nothing's being taken away from the ability of that pipe to accept the drainage and continue.
Again, I'm more concerned with sorry to go across the board. I'm more concerned with that culvert. That
Yeah.
culvert's gonna be gone altogether.
No, it's not going to be gone.
The north end of the pipe, it's not changing. They are not changing the physical configuration of that. There is nothing here proposing a change of that. And they can, because it's off their property anyway. It's off their property. So, right, so if anything, this actually is moving the water a little quicker, further down.
And that goes through town land, behind it, to the next lot, to the next lot, to the river, I guess, eventually. I think the concern should be what's going on behind there. If you're gonna have other people parking areas or that kind of thing, what are we gonna be dumping in the river at that point? If that pipe is gonna find a home into the Taunton River, you should probably be concerned with what the area it is that we're picking up.
There's nothing from these two sites that are being picked up in that
Right.
pipe.
Right, nothing on this.
Nothing from these two sites. It's from the north,
Yeah.
what is always is.
That's enclosed.
That's enclosed. It's enclosed pipe.
Yeah, nothing here. Nothing here, it's gonna be adding runoff to the pipe. As a matter of fact, all they're doing is moving that discharge to function better in the wetlands area.
No,
And if you look at the replication, they're actually lowering the elevation than what is here. So you've got an elevation of 17, they're dropping it a foot below that. So it actually provides for more storage and more function. So it'd be a little more functional. So,
Yeah, the other good point really is that this drain pipe, which has right now no protection, I mean, it could have easily have been destroyed or taken out because it had really no protection, will now be protected by virtue of the fact that it's in a drainage easement. So it's actually going to be recognized that it has a function, it needs to stay there, and it won't be arbitrarily or accidentally actually taken out and not provide that drain through, which has been there for years.
And again, the pipe hasn't changed, and we're not dealing with that upstream or up the hill. But that pipe, it's not a stretch to think it went all the way up. It did get broken off in the property to the north.
To the north of of this application.
But again, it used to go all the way through on Coitzer. And
Yeah,
the biggest problem is, I'm gonna suffer for the drainage for that. I'm gonna suffer for the drainage, as long as, you know, that culvert, if we lose that culvert, and the culvert behind my house, it has no place to go, it's going to be going to my house.
There is nothing here that's being proposed that is going to lose that culvert and the function of that culvert. Actually, it's solidified, the fact that it will be. Yeah, it'll be stabilized.
yeah, if they are proposing work on the north side, then I can see the point that you're making. But they're leaving whatever it's on the north side, they're leaving it alone. So,
There already was work done on the north side, though. And I think that maybe during the inspection, you can see that, there've already been changes out there. You know, there's already been changes out there, that on the lot next door, same owner, they have been making changes to that.
who owns the property to the north of 145A? So,
We have it listed as June Sales LLC.
My understanding, that would be Mr. Bruno.
June Sales owns the lot that's north of this property, and then South Pan owns the lot that's north of that.
okay, so is that controlled by the same parties? Okay, so then, although that's not the subject of this notice of intent, I do think that well, he does raise a valid point. So somehow that area needs to be addressed, but we cannot address it through this notice of intent, because this notice of intent is for, when you file a notice of intent, it has to do with specific location. And the application is for this specific location, all right? But what we could do is, outside of this application process here, we can go take a look on that side and see if there's any wetlands
That's
that
the
has
thing.
been,
I'd appreciate the fact that if we can do that, we can make sure that the capacity of what's going through there is gonna handle what he's gonna have the opportunity, or perhaps have the opportunity to rectify something that was done incorrectly and not under his control at the time. He can, you know, put things back and make things right all the way down the hill.
yeah, we can look at it
Right. And that's what I
for
wanna be concerned
conservation.
with, Is because this is, you have one chance of the capacity through that pipe and through that culvert. Let's look at it, we'll look at it under a different issue, not under this notice of intent. But just keep bearing in mind that we should assume that we're gonna need more capacity than we have.
I would suggest to you that that's will occur, but not under this
No,
filing.
no,
It'll
no,
occur
no,
under
no, we can do
a
that
separate
through-
filing.
Thank you.
Through an inspection and enforcement action, but that, if there's an activity going on. If there is no activity going on, that when we go there and, in other words, if we were to catch people doing stuff, then we can, through the enforcement action. Yes, sir.
You have a notice of intent for the mobile home park, that all that land's encompassed. So you don't, we already have a permit for it. It's already in effect. So we know where the wetlands are, north of it. We don't have any north of
I
it.
beg to differ on
you know? So according to the master plan that was approved by conservation, we have it laid out already. So,
Well, we can take a look at it, sir,
Yep.
but for this notice of intent, because this, even though it might be controlled by the same entity, by the same persons, this is still a separate ownership, if you will. So I think what the commission can only look at in terms of permitting, what is before it. And I will submit to you, looking at what they're proposing, nothing being proposed here will affect anything that's going on over here.
The only reason I brought it up is Mr. Silva did mention the lot to the north. That would be where the pipe has an opening. So he in fact brought it up. I just want to make sure that if we're talking about the lot to the north, we should talk to the next lot to the north and the next lot. That was my only intent.
Good point.
So,
Because usually unless there's a more additional information to come before the commission, you can vote to close the hearing and then issue an order of conditions until next, you have 21 days to issue an order of conditions from the date of closing.
so everything seems to be in order.
Yeah, I will, just for your consideration, talking about the cleanout at that bend. And then the other thing that we might want to consider is in the order of conditions, that when they build the project, that you want to actually see the easement being established. In other words, showing an easement on the plan doesn't really establish the easement. The deed is what you use to, so it would say, for example, when they convey this lot out, it has to say subject to a drainage easement, all right?
A recorded drainage easement on
Right,
those lots.
right. No, those are the,
Did you get all that language?
and they're proposing also a living fence, so that's good.
Did you get all that language done? All right.
Well, you're not voting on it right now, I'm just about,
I just
that,
wanted
those are the things that
So
you're
we can read-
discussing.
Yeah.
So I can read it later. Okay.
So you're just looking for a motion to close the
I
hearing.
Yeah.
propose that we pass motion to close the hearing
I'll s-
and issue certificate of compliance with,
Order
I mean, a order of conditions within 21 days.
Second.
Okay, any further comments? Anyone? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Present.
Thank you.
Let the record show that Mr. Smith is only present for, under the rule of necessity for the establishment of a quorum.
Okay, we have a continued ANRAD for the South Coast Rail, it's continued to June 20th. We have a continued notice on a public hearing to discuss a local wetland protection bylaws and regulations. Would you guys care to continue that to the next meeting when the full commission can
Yeah,
be
I
there?
think we need Dave here to debate that.
full board.
I think we need everybody.
Maybe we'll have a fifth member at that point to,
Even if we could do it at another time.
Yeah.
Outside of, like, just
call a special
call a
meeting just for
special
that.
meeting, just
That may be a good idea. We'll
some
focus
date
just
that's,
on that.
I will, thank you. Good night.
some date that's mutually agreeable, maybe
Yeah, let's,
2 hours or
let's
something.
get Kevin on and get Dave in and,
Yeah, I would, I would
Yeah.
continue.
It's too difficult to do it.
Bylaw
Well, I looked
changes
at-
are a big deal. They've got to be done just right, or else.
Excuse me, point of clarification. Can you amend your, on the,
Motion to close.
on motion to close? You didn't specify, it should be one, the two separate applications?
okay.
So each one has
Two
to be
separate
closed
filings.
by itself, you
Alright.
know, all right?
So we closed one hearing. Do we have a motion? to
Lot
close?
145A you closed.
145A.
So now you wanna make a motion to close lot 146A.
I'll make that motion, 146A.
Second.
Excuse me, B.
A.
A is,
146A.
okay,
All in favor?
aye.
One present.
So both have been closed,
Yeah.
146 and 146.
Why did he have to have two separate notices of intent since it's
Because they have two separate parcels,
lots.
two separate lots.
two properties?
Yeah.
We'll go back to informal at this point.
Yeah.
We'll go to the notice of violation, 51 Wampanoag Road, Jim and Marcia Burke. We issued
A letter was
A
sent.
letter to them.
a letter to him. Azu went out and met with him. And you wanna fill us in a little
Yeah,
bit on that?
what can I see the letter that was sent to them?
Mr.
Cause I
and
think,
Mrs. Burke?
Yes.
I think you have one right in there too.
oh, I did, oh, okay. Well, never mind. Never
Here we
mind.
go.
Keep going. I don't know, I can get one. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, so they have 30 days to clean up all that stuff. It's dated May 21, and
They did not appear.
It's seated at
Yeah.
this point.
it's either June 6th meeting, so they didn't show up at at our meeting.
They didn't show up today because they called and asked if they had to be here or not.
Oh, okay, those,
That's the one.
right, that's right, okay, yeah.
Because
Right.
they've already,
So-
Azu's gone out,
Yeah,
met
right.
with them,
And they're assessing
and
it.
instead of them waiting till now to start,
Yeah.
it was
they did.
safer to get some loam down, get it
Yeah.
stabilized. He had them remove some areas.
Okay, all right.
So instead of letting it go into the deeper summer and maybe risk not growth,
Yeah, push them off another 2 weeks.
yeah, it was more like just
Get it done.
Azu can get in there, tell them what they gotta do,
Yeah, and then we did.
and we can ratify it if we have to or whatever.
All right,
Okay.
I mean, do we need to do anything?
No.
Okay.
so, okay,
Azu also sent out a letter for 218 White Street,
yeah, see that?
which I forgot, did not put it on there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did.
It's on here,
Oh, yeah, I did do good.
yeah. Better than you thought you
I
were.
know, huh?
Which one of these was hand-delivered?
Neither.
Yes,
There was one that
yes.
was hand-delivered.
Wampanoag was
Wampanoag.
delivered by the police.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's the
And-
one that they went on.
Yeah.
They were it was delivered and within 45 minutes, my phone was ringing.
So,
So,
That works then, huh?
oh yeah, it did.
Okay.
So, okay,
So now we're on to 218 White Street.
Yep.
Azu, you dealt with this?
Yeah.
Can you just fill us in on it?
What's my agenda?
yeah, and it's this letter right here.
Okay, on this one here, I had gone out there because a neighbor called and filed a complaint. Well, they didn't send a written complaint. And I went out there, there's clearly a lot of trees that they had already cut.
yes,
And they were dumping a lot of their grass clippings into the pond that's in the back of their property. But that pond is really not in their property, it's adjacent to their property.
right.
And I told them to, that they need to get rid of all that stuff, and then I will do another inspection. So, I probably will go out next week,
Okay,
as the 30 days is approaching. Okay, but the last time I drove by, they already started moving some of that stuff.
Okay.
also, point of information. I know that area very well. And they do dump, they have obviously dumped, because I brought it to the
Yeah.
attention a couple of months ago. Point of information, the question I have is that there are several houses on the other side of the street who do, and I'm sure they're new there, so they probably figured, hey, everybody dumps there.
Right.
Can we have any recourse from the people who are on the other side of White Street, who cross White Street and just dump their leaves, their grass cuttings, brush right into the wetlands?
If we can physically,
I've got to see them.
okay, because you can only hold somebody responsible for what they're doing on their land. In other words.
Right,
In
okay,
other words, for
right.
example.
Yeah, okay.
If I'm violating wetlands on my property, then you can issue an enforcement order, and it's attached to that land.
Okay.
So you cannot attach somebody's land
No,
by an
okay.
action of somebody else.
Right, okay.
So it's one of those things where you almost have to catch the people doing it and let the police know.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
It's very, very hard
No,
to.
no, yeah.
Is this a pond, or is it a retention pond for?
No, it's not retention, it is the actual pond.
Okay.
This is part of the water supply that goes right, wraps right around the,
Oh, good, so we're getting all that phosphorus in there.
what's the water? Yes, that goes, wraps right around, sure.
Gail's never had any dealings with them.
Sure, that's, well, anyway, okay, thank you. Thank you, I was,
Certificate of compliance for 90 Crimson Street, David Ogilvy.
He did call today, and he was confused on the dates, of whether he should be here tonight on the next day, the 20th. But he did inform me today that he couldn't make it tonight, so he'd like to be continued to the 20th.
Okay.
I don't know if you need to do another site visit on it to see how it's coming along.
We will have to.
Okay.
I think, who went out there for the last site visit? David, right?
Correct.
So we will ask him to make another site visit.
Okay.
If you could send him an email.
Mhm.
Ask him to come back from vacation tomorrow.
right. Town will pay his airfare back.
No, we will not. He can do it out of his own pocket. That's a 1-to-1 vote. Anybody care to differ? Okay, David Peachy, 291 Orchard Street. We're looking for an update.
I got a call from Mr. Peachy yesterday, and he said he was still working on taking care of the issues, okay? He said he's removed some logs, but he hasn't seeded yet. Now, today I got a call from Mr. Thomas, the next
The
door.
guy next door that is
He is
wandering.
very upset that nothing has been done. He said he could have already taken off everything that's on his property that Mr. Peachy is supposed to remove. He said he hasn't even started that. And he hasn't started anything as far as the drainage goes, that drainage issue that was out the back.
Mm-hmm.
He says that's still the same way. Nothing is being done. He's moved some big logs, according to Mr. Thomas. He's just moved some big logs.
Yeah, and we can see that pile.
So,
We issued him a notice of intent.
No, an order of conditions as part of the enforcement order.
Okay, did we give him a time frame?
Yes, we did.
What was the
Did we
time
order?
frame?
Yeah, in the order.
but I think, did we give him 3 years?
Huh?
I hope not.
No, the standard order, but the special conditions is because this is an enforcement order.
That's what I want to make sure is
Yeah,
in
we
that.
did. I know that for a fact.
There you go. All work shall be completed no later.
No, May 31, 2012.
Okay, then, I'm gonna ask for a motion that we
Yeah.
send him a
It
letter.
says here,
Yep.
it says here, the homeowner is hereby reminded that this order of conditions has been issued for the notice of intent filed as a result of the commission's enforcement order. Therefore, non-compliance with the conditions stipulated herein may result in the imposition of civil penalties
Okay.
and fines as provided for by law.
I
So-
would say, at this point, when is our meeting in July?
The 11th.
Okay,
Well, we have another meeting on the 20th.
I know,
I
but,
think he's
but
good, yeah.
I'm gonna look for a motion that's gonna say, something to the effect of, in the letter, reference that paragraph
Yeah.
in the notice of, in the order of conditions, and that due to the lack of compliance with this order of conditions, you have 30 days in which to comply, or civil penalties will be
Imposed
imposed,
retroactively.
to May 31st.
Okay.
But we're gonna give them the last 30 days to get it done, completed. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
Everybody
no, I
agree
do,
with
yeah,
that?
we're giving him a little extension here.
And
But if he
after
doesn't
that
do
30 days,
it, we're
time's
going
up.
back to our original date,
Yeah.
as far as any imposition of fines,
Yeah.
okay.
Does that sound strong enough?
Or word the letter properly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to send that letter out.
That's the motion yes, second, the
Second.
motion.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So,
So we'll issue a letter.
I'm surprised. I thought he was gonna cooperate. I thought
Yeah, he seems to be one of those guys that just yes you to death.
Yeah, I suppose.
Speaking of ones that yes you to death, Pleasant Street wasn't one of them. I met with Mr. Hammett yesterday,
Oh, right.
and
Oh, what,
everything that we asked for is done.
the farm, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
The only thing that, remember there was a stone swale that was
Yep.
gonna go in, and they
Yep.
were gonna grass the two sides?
Yes, yes.
Well, those two sides are pretty wet. The hay bales at the end of that swale, we asked for 4 hay bales. It's now 8 hay bales, because 4 wasn't enough,
Okay.
Oh, we had talked about.
with silt fence. Other than that, there was no debris, I mean, everything.
So they
There was
really-
still the logs up the top
Yeah,
and the
well,
wood chips,
that-
but
we said, yeah.
everything we said, the hay bales all around the back with silt fence. And that silt fence was installed properly,
Good.
which was kind of amazing, but they did it with a trencher, and it was in probably,
They said they were gonna do with all, I mean, you can see it in their eyes.
Yep,
that
they did it.
They're not the,
And
you
it was a
know,
lot of work there,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. No,
now,
good.
did we issue an enforcement order on that?
no,
I thought we did.
no, we invited them to show up. And then if they didn't show up and,
Okay.
yeah.
Then they came, then we went, then they, yeah,
Okay.
right, yeah.
So we have no further action to take on that?
Yeah, because we gave them, we met out there with them and told them this is what we want them to do, and.
They've done it.
And
Yeah,
they've done it,
So,
good.
just,
Nice to see somebody complying.
Okay, I have one more on the list to
Okay.
bring up to date. Across the street, 515, North Main Street, Mr. Shepley. He was supposed to come back with a notice of intent.
Mm-hmm. And then I actually helped them.
And he
Do
did
it.
come in just before I went on vacation and said he was working on it, but he was still upset because he thought the state should take care of it and this and that,
What does he mean the state should take care
because
of
the state is the one that put the sidewalks in. So I said, you can do what you've gotta do, I mean, if you need to speak to the state, fine, but you need to get the notice of intent in.
Yeah.
But he hasn't gotten it in yet, so we haven't
Okay.
seen it.
so
So that's just
we'll
another
give
one
him an
that's,
additional 30 days to get the notice of intent done, submitted,
as
to
previously.
be ready for the July
11th?
11th meeting.
Is it?
And the
Okay?
same kind of language
Yep.
that we're sending to
Same.
Mr. Peachy,
Yep.
that if not, it doesn't happen, then there's be a fine retroactive to the
Retroactive.
original date.
okay.
This is
Sec-
fun stuff.
You make that as a motion? Yeah.
Oh, you make the motion.
Well, I'll make that as a motion. Second that motion?
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, the certificate of compliance for, Mr. Stolti, I don't know where they got that, date from.
Okay.
It's gotta be a typo.
Okay.
They might have just grabbed a date from something else.
Okay.
All right, so the certificate needs to reflect
So-
the,
This date.
this issuance date, that's
Okay,
correct.
so I will fix
Just
that,
redo that, yeah.
and they can sign it tonight?
Yeah, just redo that page, that sheet.
Yep,
Okay, we have one other issue, too. Hall Street.
please sign.
We've got to do something about Mellow and Hall Street. Mellow and, what's the other name?
There was a grant.
Grant. Grant supposedly has not done anything. Mellow hasn't noticed that anything's been done. They've never been notified. So we need to send a letter out. Because that was another time frame involved with that it had to be done within a certain amount of time, so.
Now, that one, we did not require, the commission did not require a notice of intent. They did it through a request for determination.
Correct. So how do you,
That's some letter that we did to the other people.
okay, we have a motion to send them a letter?
Motion, to send the letter
So
to,
we
Grants,
three letters.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Walmart, what day did we go there? A while back.
Last week?
No, it was 2 weeks
2
ago.
weeks ago.
That was Thursday, the
I got it in my phone.
Thursday, the 24th.
Azu must have just submitted his bill.
No, actually, no, started the 24th because I had to go get my daughter.
So it was your fault.
No, the older one.
Oh, the big sister.
We're gonna start reading your kids into the minutes.
Well, now you're gonna get schooled because he was late tonight. Remember the last meeting, we said you have to come every time because you had him here early? He said it was your fault that he was late tonight. I think you need to stop at Hanson Farm on the way home and get an ice cream. We walked the line.
We did.
We had no issues.
No, there were a couple of silt fences that were lapped the wrong way, depending on the terrain, and they were gonna take care of that, but outside of that, it was pretty well done. It was almost a mile and a half of walking. It was a huge piece of property.
It was only like a quarter mile, but
It felt like a mile and a half, because you were going up and down, up and down.
The building is amazing though. The building is 3.5 acres.
It's
I
huge.
mean, you gotta, when you
Right.
put it in those terms, it's
Right.
like, are you kidding?
Right.
That was a huge piece of property. And it looks like they did a good job. Looks like they're gonna be,
Well, when it's a Walmart, when you're dealing with those big organizations like Walmart, CVS, they don't skimp. They do it,
well,
Home Depot.
this is what came from them,
Yep.
telling us that those hay bales were all in place.
So that's what, $5,000?
That book probably cost more than the hay bales
Do you
did.
wanna bring them up today on the South Coast Rail?
Yes. On the, thank you. On the South Coast Rail, they put a request for a continuation because I spoke with Miss Lisa Stanley, who's the wetlands expert working for MassDOT through Venice, Hingham, Brussels, VHB. MassDOT has approved the bill that we gave them. MassDOT has approved the bill that we gave them for the review, so now I can do the walking as well as the sub-consultant that we have that will do some of the line with me.
when are you gonna do that?
Oh, we're starting now. Yeah. So you're welcome to,
We have to work on where to put the money when it shows up.
right, you guys have to deal with that.
You just spend it,
Yeah, amen.
sort of like being at home.
Yeah, I'll go with it.
Okay, very good.
Put my boots on, we'll walk.
You got it. Well, I actually already started, but I didn't want to generate any reports until we get a commitment from them. Yeah, the straight section, the section from 495 down to Carver Street
Right,
and down to past the Milk.
no problem.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Basically it's right at the edge of the no, at the edge of the right of way of the track.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, it follows it because the way the tracks were built.
Okay.
Now, just so you know, the resources that they delineated are only the resources within the right of way. In other words, any resource that will trigger the jurisdiction of the commission but lies outside the right of way, they did not flag. Which,
Why is that an issue? Or is it-
no, I'm just letting you know. So for example, here's your right of way, okay? Now, here's the BVW. That BVW might go off this way towards that podium. When it leaves the right of way, they didn't flag it. Because they feel, it's not their property. And
So
and
you're
they
doing
would've-
pieces.
yeah, so you're doing pieces of the resource.
Okay.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they can only flag what's
They,
theirs.
they can only fly what's on their land. You can't go on somebody else's land
Flag it.
and flag. But, right, but the commission needs to be aware of the fact that there are other resources beyond the right of way.
Yep.
Show
Alright.
him that.
Real quick.
Hopefully it won't be touched.
Well, they can only work within the right of way anyway.
Well, that's the theory, yeah.
Yeah, well-
They're constructing, I mean,
Alright.
lots can
They're
happen.
actually pretty, the
Pretty-
rail is pretty good about staying,
Right on the line?
yeah.
Yeah. Equipment, things that's on the side, and also,
Yeah.
somebody's property. and-
Executive? Okay. All right, does anybody else have anything else?
Any further business?
Okay, I'd like to have an executive session to discuss a contract. Yes?
Yeah.
So, if there's nothing else, I'd like to
Oh, we have to close the meeting.
They
first.
close this meeting, but
Make a motion.
we're gonna vote to go into executive session
I make a motion that we close this meeting
Seconded.
and go into executive session.
and go to executive session, yeah.
Second.
Okay, so we have to do it by roll call.
Roll call, yeah.
All in favor?
Mr. Dooley.
Aye.
Mr. Dooley.
He already said aye. Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
It's
Okay.
unanimous.
We're done.